What's up? Welcome back to the Tailgate Debate. I'm Anthony. I'm here with Jamie, and we were down one moisty tonight. Zach is not with us this evening. Um, so tonight we already had sort of an impromptu episode on Tuesday to talk about the playoff. So tonight's just a filler. So I thought maybe we would just take a look at putting a parlay together. I hit my parlay last week. So I thought we would maybe do this one, just kind of talk about some bets that might make sense. So let's go through some matchups and I'll just do kind of preview the ones that look like they may make sense. I got LSU. I haven't put this ticket together yet, so I'm gonna do it while we're talking. LSU minus 3.5 over Arkansas. You like that game? And if so, who you like? Or would you
I
not touch it?
I wouldn't mess with that game.
I wouldn't either. That's
But if
gonna
I
be a
had,
weird game.
if I had to take a team, I would take LSU.
You would see that's interesting. If I had to take a team, I would take Arkansas. So I
Yeah,
think I think
it's more to do with me not trusting Arkansas.
um I tell you what I do think that I like in this game, and I may very well put on my over under ticket is the under
What's the over-under?
62. 62.
Yeah, it's always dangerous too when a team is coming off a big win and there's the other team that's really playing for nothing besides messing up other people's seasons.
That's it. That's when shit starts getting real. And also, this is the point in the season when teams that got big running backs, physical running backs, this is when you start to see those things make a difference. Teams are tired. It's the grind of a long season. Um, and there's fatigue. I mean, I know they're young guys, but college football is a long season, man. These guys are busy. So I think you start to see some of these more physical teams have an impact. Um, I think that's why Georgia snuck one by us last week. All right, so next is I'm going to skip the Oklahoma West Virginia. That's an 8-point line. I don't like that game at all. Ohio State is giving up 40 against Indiana. Um, who would you take in that game? I wouldn't touch it, but who would you take?
Um, that's another one that's tough because Indiana's so bad, and Ohio State have struggled this year. But this is the game where they're gonna run up the score, get their stats. That's what they've been doing all season. So I could see Ohio State blasting them.
So you take Ohio State and go up to 40?
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it. I would take Indiana here. Um, we got some know nothing games. Tennessee's 20.5 point favorite to Missouri. I'm actually a little bit concerned about that game. I want to see how we respond, but that's not a line I would touch. Kentucky Vandy 18-point line. Notre Dame. Let's talk about your guys. I think you guys open as like an 18-point favorite. It's down to 15.5. I know for me, if I was picking this game, I would definitely take Notre Dame and give up the points. I think Navy's terrible. And I think this is a really bad matchup for Navy. Where would you lean here from a betting perspective, not from the fans' perspective?
I would also take Notre Dame, but only because Navy's so bad. I don't think Navy's going to score much against the defense. And it just really depends how our offense is called and how our offense plays, because we might just go in there and just run the ball the entire game. So it might just be a slow, boring game,
Yeah.
or we could potentially see the offense do some throws down the field. I don't know if you saw this. You probably didn't. During our game, it was late in the game. I think we were up 28-7 or something. And our offense was calling in the play to our quarterback, and they called a play action pass, and our quarterback couldn't believe it. He had to take a second look at the sideline to make sure that the play was correct. And like Notre Dame is like showing this as if like, I don't know, like I think it's a bad look for us that the fact that our quarterback was surprised that our offensive coordinator called a play action pass when we've been running it down Clemson's throat the entire game. Like that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to surprise them with a pass down the field and not just keep running the ball. Even though we had a ton of success running the ball, I think that shows you how conservative and boring our offense is. I was embarrassed by the video that our quarterback was surprised that our offensive coordinator called a play action pass during a game where we're up 3 touchdowns.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
embarrassed.
I would still take Notre Dame and give up the points though, because I don't think Navy's gonna score. Probably at all, maybe a field goal. So I think that Notre Dame can at least score 3 touchdowns to beat the spread. I'll tell you a weird line I was looking at earlier is Iowa State is giving up 1.5 to Oklahoma State. How far has Oklahoma State fallen in 4 weeks? I mean, it is crazy. They're 5-3 now. The game is in Oklahoma State, and Iowa State is favored to beat them. Iowa State's 3-5.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
I don't understand that spread. I wonder if this site has it backwards. That's weird. That's weird. Anyway, Clemson's touchdown favorite over Louisville. I'd take Louisville there. Clemson's no good. What about you?
I definitely, it's not a game I would mess with, but if I had to pick a team, I mean, it's a tough one because Clemson struggled scoring against our defense, but our defense is a lot better than what Louisville is going to roll out on the field. So Clemson's going to be able to score against Louisville. So I'd probably go Clemson.
Interesting. So we've been pretty divided on these so far. All right, here's a couple pretty interesting lines, and I think this is where I'm starting to get into my ticket. Not this game, but the next couple. Michigan is giving up 31 to Nebraska. Nebraska is miserable.
Michigan's definitely going to cover that game. If you look at all the previous games on their schedule where they played bad teams, they beat them like 70 something to 7 or 14. Like they really put it on these teams.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
would take.
that's what they do.
I take Nebraska in the points.
Oh, you would?
That's what Huh?
You would take Nebraska?
I would, and the points, yeah.
I would say Michigan's a lock. This is what the Big Ten teams do to the bad teams. They beat the shit out of them.
I don't know. It's getting late. It's getting chilly. It's getting
How's the
near the
weather?
end.
Is
Huh?
there wind?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
We'd have to bring in Kirby or Kirk to give us a weather report.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with Herbie, man. I'm done with Herbie. We should start doing episodes every week just to talk about the dumb shit he says and does. He's not even an ESPN analyst anymore. He's just an Ohio State spokesman.
Yeah,
Um,
he's campaigning.
he is. That's all. That's all he does. Everybody knows it too. Penn State is giving up 10. This is a home game for Penn State. Maryland's at Penn State. Penn State giving up 10.
Penn State.
Um,
It's not even hard.
You take Penn State.
Yeah, Maryland can't play any defense.
Is Maryland's quarterback playing? And I keep hearing that he's hurt. He's not hurt. He's hurt. He's not hurt. Is he hurt or what?
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. I would take Penn State too.
That's what I was gonna say. This really doesn't even matter. I mean, I know he's a decent quarterback and they do score points, but it doesn't matter. Penn State's definitely going to beat them by 10.
Yeah, Penn State also has that grudge thing with Maryland with James Franklin. So James Franklin's always going to try to give it to Maryland when he can. So they'll beat that. I don't think Penn State's all that good, but I think they'll beat that spread. It's a tough line though. I think 10 points is a lot of points. Bama's favored by 11.5 over Ole Miss. I like Ole Miss to beat that spread. They're playing Ole Miss is home. What do you like?
I think Ole Miss is not very good. I think Alabama's actually going to blast them.
Yeah, that's what I thought against LSU, and Alabama's not blasting anybody. I think Alabama will win. I don't think they'll cover. And then last game, Florida is giving up 8. South Carolina is at Florida. Florida's giving up 8. How do you like?
I would take Florida there.
Yeah, I would take Florida too. So I think I got my parlay ticket together. So I'm trying to go back-to-back wins on my parlay here. So this is my ticket. I got my take Penn State, give up the 7. I'm gonna take Florida, give up the 8. I'm gonna take Texas and give up the 7 against TCU. And I'm gonna take Illinois plus 15, plus 14, I mean. And I cannot remember who Illinois is playing. I just looked at it. But I just wrote down the Illinois and I didn't look at the matchup again.
They're favored by 14.
Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. I might be getting into next week. Fuck, I gotta take that off. I got the wrong game down. So I'm gonna have to get rid of that game and pick up. I actually scrolled all the way into next week. That's the Michigan line for the 19th. So I will be taking Illinois next week on that ticket. So I
Oh,
need
they're underdogs 14 points.
Illinois is gonna be underdogs against Michigan next week. So this site that I'm on, when you scroll up, it just keeps giving you the next game. It just goes right into the next week. So I got 3 games. I just need the 4th one. I tell you what I think I'm gonna do. Notre Dame was pretty good to me last week. I think I'm gonna take Notre Dame again. And give up the 15.5. So I'm gonna add them to my ticket.
I would say that's pretty safe. Navy might not score a point.
That's what I think too. I don't think Navy can score. Okay, so those are my betting line tickets. Now my over unders, this is what I'm gonna go with. This one I did do ahead of time because I had to look at this one a little more closely. So tell me what you would do first, and then I'll tell you what I got on the ticket. Colorado USC, the over under 66. You going over under?
I would go under.
I went over. I don't think either team plays any defense. I think USC is going to score probably 48 on their own. So I just need Colorado to score a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, both teams don't play defense, but Colorado also doesn't play offense.
I know Colorado sucks. Colorado sucks. I'm still going to take the over though. They got to score a little bit. Garbage time. So I got to give me something. These over unders are fucking hard, man. Last week I went 4 for 4 to win my parlay on my over under ticket. I think I went 0 for 4. I might have went 1 for 4. I don't think I missed them all. I think I got 1. All right, Purdue, Illinois, over under 44.5.
I would go over.
I went over too. I thought that was a weird. That's a low scoring. Of the Big Ten though, man. I've seen Big Ten scores 5-3. Literally. I think it was Purdue and Iowa one year. The final score was 5-3.
There was a game like that this year with Iowa, where I think they scored 2 safeties and a field goal. It was like 7-3 or something.
Yeah, there's a game that we didn't talk about with the 4 safeties. Did you see the highlight on that? It was a couple weeks ago.
That was
the snapper.
Yeah, it was bad teams though, right?
Oh, there was bad teams, but that's brutal. 4 straight snaps over the punter's head.
Yeah, I seen the people doing the highlight of the game, and they were like, "Do they not have anyone else that can snap the ball?" Like, because after 2, I feel like you have to be like, "All right, who's up next?" Like, there's got to be a rotation, hit the bullpen or something.
Yeah, I had a friend in high school. He played on the JV football team, and they shut out every team all season, which that would have given them an extra patch for their Letterman's jacket when they got to varsity. Except that they gave up 2 points. And he was the long snapper and he snapped the ball over the punter's head in one game. And those are the only 2 points they gave up all season.
That's crazy.
They were good. Actually, it's funny because he said that like 14 guys got pulled up to varsity for the playoffs because our varsity team was good too. And he said he was so jacked up. The coach gave a great speech because they were playing like Carroll County or something. And he said they called them the boys in blue, and we were red and white in high school. And now he said the coach said, well, the boys in blue haven't met the men in red. And he said they were all jacked up. They kicked the ball off and the other team ran it back for a touchdown, ended up beating them like 49-0. He said so that the speech was like as good as it got. That was it. Which is crazy because we did have a good team. Anyway, Purdue.
That's similar to Lane Kiffin's Get Your Popcorn Ready.
It is, yeah. Get your popcorn ready. I do think that Alabama game is gonna, I don't think Alabama's gonna cover that spread because I think Ole Miss is gonna play keep away, just run the ball the whole game. And Alabama's a mess, man. They're not playing for much. I'll tell them, well, let's come back to that. I'll just finish this ticket. Let me tell you what I heard somebody say about Alabama today, which I think is true. LSU, Arkansas, over under 62.
That's
I think
tough.
it's an easy one. Really?
Yeah,
I thought this was the easiest one on the ticket. I'm
I would.
100% going under.
Yeah, under.
And then Maryland, Penn State, over under 58.5.
Over.
I thought this one was pretty tough.
I'll go over there.
I went under. I went under. I mean, it's the Big Ten, so it might, if it might be breezy. If it's breezy, they're only going to score like 28 points combined. So that's all I need is breezy. Anyway, I heard somebody say, those are my parlay tickets. I'll circle back next week and let everybody know how they pan out. Who knows? Anyway, I was listening to somebody today say that they thought it was kind of fucked up that they're making Alabama play at night with LSU playing during the day, because if LSU beats Arkansas, Alabama is eliminated. And they were saying it's unfortunate because they think that it will truly impact that Alabama game and their mentality going in against Ole Miss. Because if LSU loses, Alabama is still alive in the SEC West. But if LSU wins, Alabama is eliminated because of the tiebreaker. So the only team that would be able to catch LSU in the West would be Ole Miss, who's still
Yeah,
sitting with them.
Is college football supposed to schedule their games around what Alabama, their feelings? Like,
Well, I thought it was a good point. I
I
thought it was a
think
good point.
I think that Alabama, their players probably already feel that way.
I think so too. I mean, they're all but eliminated. The SEC West, even if LSU loses, it doesn't put Alabama back in. It just keeps them alive.
Yeah, but
But
for Alabama, all the success that they've had and like the leaders and the seniors, juniors on their team, they're not used to having two losses and not playing for championships.
nah,
It's very, but not to say that they should just stop playing and quit on the season. But I mean, they're definitely in a situation where they're not used to. It's not familiar.
yeah. No, there was this whole debate today about whether or not Alabama is going to be on the decline, whether they'll bounce back. Who are the teams that are here to stay and that sort of thing. And actually, one of the guys I heard say, they said Alabama owned the previous decade, maybe even 2 decades, if you want to call it that. So the question was, which team do you think will win the most championships in the next decade? So let's just call it this decade, the 2020 to 2030 decade. Which team? I thought it was a pretty interesting question. And my answer is, it's probably going to sound like a cop out, but what would you say?
Um,
You know, putting you on the spot, you hadn't had time to think about it, but
I mean, the front runner has to be Georgia, just based on the foundation that they're laying and the fact that they're kind of taking over where Alabama left off.
yep,
But you have some sleepers too, like Tennessee's looking good. USC might put something together with Lincoln Riley.
yeah,
Uh, Ohio State is always, they're always going to be a player.
yeah. They ain't one shit. So the answer, there was 3 panelists. One said Georgia. They said, I'm gonna go with the team that's at the top now, which I think makes perfect sense. They won it last year. They're in line to win it this year. I do think we'll get a little bit, we'll get some redemption down the road. People don't believe it, but we will. But anyway, they're in line to win it this year. So I think Georgia's an easy pick, right? That's the low hanging fruit. One person did pick USC. They said that they think they're going to do some things out there. And then they actually said joining the Big Ten, they think that they're really gonna have their way in that conference. I don't know about all that, but we'll see. And then the third person said LSU, which I thought was an absolute joke. And one of the other analysts busted out laughing and said that that's ridiculous. Like, whoever came up with that, you shouldn't let them pick anymore.
Right.
And I mean, This thing with Brian Kelly, the team has 2 losses. Now I get that maybe they beat Alabama. Okay, great, fantastic. But before Alabama, was anybody really saying that LSU was any threat to do anything or exciting or even good?
Well, there were people that were saying that because when the first playoff ranking came out, LSU was sitting there at 10, and we all thought that was weird. So there were people that were buying into LSU.
I
But
guess
like
that's true.
like
Yeah.
like you're saying, like I think in when you beat Alabama, you get a ton of credit, which as you should. Like Alabama's a standard.
Mm.
But I think what we're learning this year is that this Alabama team isn't what it has been in previous years. So yeah, like there's still a good win. I'm not saying like it's just a scrub team that you beat, but it's just not what it meant a couple years ago. It's not the same, not the same impact. And for Tennessee, I mean, you guys lost 15 straight to them, so that was a huge game. And at that time, that they were undefeated. That was their first loss. So
Yeah, I mean, I think people I it's kind of fucked up because people say, well, when you beat Alabama now, it doesn't mean as much because now they have 2 losses. Well, they have 2 losses because you had to go in there and knock them off. I mean, my thing has always been if you want to be the top player, you got to knock off the top player. And Alabama's been the top player for a decade. So while I agree with the idea that it's not like beating the Alabama team from 5 years ago. Well, the reason that it's not like that is because the team Alabama team 5 years ago went undefeated. If you'd beat them then, they would have said, well, it wasn't like beating the Alabama team last year who was undefeated. So you can, as soon as you beat them, of course they look mortal. And so that argument really kind of gets sort of circular. You know what I mean? I
well, I think the difference is like there were Alabama teams that won championships and lost in the regular season or in the SEC championship.
Yeah, weird games though. It were
Right,
weird games. Yeah.
right. But I mean, I think everyone. I mean, you can say this. This Alabama team is not a typical what we're used to seeing an Alabama team. They're not They're not coached well. They're not as talented as they have been in the past. So
I don't
while they're
I don't
still
disagree.
yeah, while they're still Alabama, they're not what we're used to seeing.
I don't disagree with that. But I think once you still have to assert yourself, and asserting yourself means beating the teams that are on the top. Alabama's been on the top for 2 decades. So you still gotta, however people want to marginalize that victory or their position, okay, fine. But it is what it is. You still got to go in there and take care of your business. Just like Florida. One of the things that really bothers me about these rankings and people saying, well, Florida's not a quality win. They're not in the top 25. Florida's a quality win. I don't care what anybody says. And I think this is where I have complete bias towards the SEC because I think that Florida is a team that's got some struggles in the SEC, so they look less than good. But I think you take Florida, throw them to the ACC, they're competing for the ACC title. You take them, you throw them into the Big Ten, they're in the top, easily in the top half of that conference. And so I hate that argument because you can't quantify everything. The talent is still there. And you got to go in there and knock them off and get shit done. But my answer anyway, because the answer you gave was kind of what they said, the Georgia, the USC. I actually don't think there's going to be a team that dominates like that. Georgia, I mean, look like they're going to do it right now. I don't think this is going to hold true over the long haul. I think what Nick Saban has done is not going to be duplicated. So I think what you're going to see over the next 10 years is normalcy. Different teams winning it. Maybe one will get 2, maybe 3 over 10 years. But I think you're going to see a lot of different teams start to get into the mix. Now, I think you're seeing that right now. Oregon in the mix to make the playoff. Tennessee for the first time in the playoff discussion. TCU in the playoff discussion. Michigan finally made it in last year. So I think you're going to start to see, Clemson and Bama are completely eliminated. So for the first time, neither of those guys will be in. Maybe we'll strike gold and Ohio State will get eliminated. That would be awesome. If they got upset by Indiana or something to put them out. But I think you're going to start to see just more different teams winning. You're not going to see what I think. And when people say who's the next Bama, my answer is no one. It's not what's happened there is not going to be duplicated. There's going to be teams at the top, but what they've done won't be duplicated. And I think that's why Nick Saban is the best coach ever. So that's my 2 cents on that one.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And the thing going back to the Florida comments you were making, I think Florida's a solid team too.
Yeah.
They've just had a very weird season where they've looked good against teams and then they haven't looked good against other. Like they lost to Kentucky and they lost to LSU. They lost to Tennessee and Georgia. So like the Tennessee and the Georgia game, you kind of can understand, but losing to Kentucky and even LSU, like I thought Florida was the better team in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why they're not ranked is because, I mean, they play a legit schedule. They have 4 losses, but if you say like, is Florida a top 25 team? There's no way you leave them out of the top 25.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting because when you hear these discussions about the playoffs, and I don't want to go back in the playoffs. We already did that discussion on Tuesday, but you'll hear them say, well, Tennessee beat Florida, LSU beat Florida. Oh, that's not really a quality win. Florida has 4 losses. They're not the same old team. But then they'll talk about Utah. Well, Utah had well, Florida beat Utah. So they'll say, yeah, well, Utah went into Gainesville. It was only a 1-point game. The Florida, and so they'll start to sort of turn it. It won't be that Utah lost to a bad Florida team. They might not say Florida's good, but they most certainly won't continue that narrative that Florida's bad when they're trying to make the case for Utah to be that Pac-12 team. Just drives me fucking crazy. But it is what it is. We ain't changing all that crap. They need it for discussion. So we got our bets down, and we'll come back with the results next week, and then we should have the last moisty back. You got anything else for this episode?
No, you need to get
Any
some better.
match besides your game? What game are you definitely tuning into this weekend?
Well, I'll be at the Notre Dame game because it's being played in Baltimore at the Ravens Stadium.
But
So,
in theory, what game would you definitely be tuning into?
I mean, I guess I'll keep an eye on what TCU does against
Yeah.
Texas. Like that's probably the most like playoff implications. That's the game. I think everyone's kind of waiting for TCU to lose so that the picture can become a little bit more clear.
I think so too. I'm definitely going to be watching the TCU Texas game, and I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on the Oregon Washington game. I'm looking for Oregon to come back down to earth now. And really, I know people want to see a lot of drama and discussion come playoff time. I don't. I want the picture to be clear with us in it. So I want to see everybody around us lose. Anyway, that should do it. So we will. I guess we'll be back on Sunday morning. Have a good time at the Notre Dame game, and we'll review everything on Sunday once we get back together. All right. See ya.